It's a horrible tragedy, and I've placed a call to Mr. Damond, as well as to the Australian consulate in Chicago. I'll have to call back numbers, but I'm not going to be involved in the investigation. I'm aware that Bureau of Criminal Apprehension is giving it its absolute top priority, and I think they provided yesterday afternoon to all of you and to me, really, the information that they believe they can provide at this point in time.
Aside from your call to the consulate, have you had any other initiated or received any direct contact with Australian governmental sources about this?
I've been working through Chief of Staff Jamie Tincher. She's been in touch with the White House government relations officials, and they directed her to a State Department official. We withheld any activity on our part here until we talked with them and understood what the protocol is in terms of state government and a federal, for another country. So that's been that took a day or so to make those connections, and that's but we wanted to make sure we handled this properly.
Governor, you said you called her father. Can you tell us anything about that?
I called her fiance.
Fiance. Can you tell us anything about that?
I left a voicemail. I got a voicemail. I left a message expressing what I've just said, my deepest condolences, and offered to provide whatever assistance I could.
Governor Damond wrote in the column that any system that gives officers discretion on when or whether to turn on body cameras is useless and a waste of money. Do you agree with that, and do you think the state should step in on policy regarding the use of body cameras?
I don't. I think we should look at that policy. I think in light of this experience, it definitely should be reviewed by the legislature. I haven't looked at it with enough time to take a position on it, but I would agree with what County Attorney Mike Freeman said, that they didn't have to turn them on, but they should have had them on. And I assume that reflects his understanding of what City of Minneapolis or Minneapolis Police Department policy is. It's with the local control over law enforcement that we have in Minnesota, those decisions in terms of the protocol and the use of body cameras, as well as when they must be turned on and when they should be turned on at all, resides with the local authorities, the City of Minneapolis and the Minneapolis Police Department. But I think it's something the legislature certainly should want to take a look at next year, and I'll work with them.
Governor, the legislature has wrestled with this and not been able to come up with a statewide solution. Do you think that is required rather than a city-by-city, jurisdiction-by-jurisdiction policy? I'm
not prepared today to say one way or the other, but I would certainly look at that question before the next legislative session.
Governor, do you believe there is a double standard in how this case is being treated and perceived? That is, a Somali-American officer shot a white woman.
What are you implying is the double standard?
Well, when Philando Castile was shot, you said if he had been white, it would have been a different.
Well, I'm not going to comment on that. I mean, each situation is different. That was a comment I made with regard to that particular incident. I don't even know how to apply that to this. And, we don't have, there's such a paucity of information, which is very unfortunate. But, best of my knowledge, there are only two living eyewitnesses, one of whom spoke yesterday to BCA officials for a total of about 4 hours. And the other has declined to be interviewed. And obviously he's the key person in this investigation. So I just I don't know any more than whatever has been reported.
Governor, can you weigh in that this has nothing to do with the Somali community? This is a Minneapolis police officer. Somalis are law-abiding citizens of this state. This is an isolated incident. It just happens to be a Somali officer. That doesn't mean that the Somali community has to explain themselves. He's a police officer, member of the Minneapolis Police Department. Somalis has nothing to do with this. Somalis have a concern with the way the police deals with them. We express deep condolence shooting took place. We have the same concern like family, like any other citizen in the street of this state, and we don't have to explain ourselves that because the officer just happened to be a Somali officer.
I would agree. I don't think there should be any implication to the broader Somali community or communities in Minnesota because of this incident. It was a single incident involving a single officer, two officers, one who fired, reportedly is one who fired his weapon, and that should be viewed as its own separate from anything else. As I said with the time about Mr. Castillo, that was, again, it was not my comments were not in any way a statement on law enforcement generally or on any community. It was directed toward that specific incident, and I certainly would want to emphasize that as well in this regard.
Governor, are you as frustrated as everybody else by the lack of information in this case and how many days it's taken to learn much of what happened?
Well, the BCA was on the site immediately, and they are taking whatever, I'm not an expert, whatever forensic evidence and other evidence available. There was, in marked contrast to Mr. Castillo's shooting, where there was video cameras and dash cams and others, so there was a lot of information quickly available. There just has not been, whatever the determination they've made and forensic evaluations about various aspects of the event are confidential. But without one of the law enforcement officers being willing to talk about what happened, I think BCA itself, I'm just speculating here, is also stymied by the lack of available information. They put out a call for any witnesses. As to my knowledge, when I've been told, there's no known other witnesses to the event. So I think everybody's very wants answers that are not immediately forthcoming, and I don't know when they will be forthcoming.
Officer Noor has exercised his right to not subject himself to an interview yet. As a public servant, as a police officer, should he?
I'm not going to comment on that. He's entitled to make that decision, and he has constitutional rights as well as state law that protects his decision to speak or not speak, so I'm not going to comment on that.
Are you concerned with the spate of shootings of police officers, shooting by police officers and civilians? If you are in Minnesota, and if you are, what are those?
Well, I'm certainly concerned. I'm concerned with any one incident is one far too many. It underscores the importance of the training, the funds that the legislature provided, that the post board is going to be administering, and I would defer to others with more expertise than I what can possibly be done to prevent this from happening and never happening again. Recognizing that these are individual law enforcement officers, there are thousands of them patrolling the state every moment, day and night, and they are put into these situations that are very incident specific, and they're having to make very quick, if not instantaneous, decisions about how they're going to proceed. And so it's to say you're going to have a blanket training program or any other program that's going to encompass all of that and give people that whatever additional level of training or expertise they need to make different decisions in that split second are ones that we certainly will pursue. But it's just realistically, we can do the best we can, but we're not going to make human beings perfect.
Do you worry that the paucity of information and the dribbling of the information and the ways come out, in fact, even the way the BCA put out its first release, pointing to a person who, upon questioning, knew nothing of the case, is going to fuel skepticism and actually fear of the police department? Are you concerned about that?
I'm not aware that the person who was identified by the BCA was ignorant about the case. I don't know. I don't have any information. First I've heard of that. I don't know. I'll certainly check with Commissioner Damond and see that they have whoever is going to be making whatever statements is as well informed as can be. Again, I'm just saying, and I'm not privy to the BCA, but the paucity of information here, available information. You've got whatever physical evidence and whatever, ballistic or other tests that they can perform, which they're going to undertake with the greatest urgency. But there are only two people who are alive who witnessed the incident, and the BCA was prepared to interview the first officer the next morning or as soon as possible thereafter, and he took until yesterday morning before he and through his attorney agreed to be interviewed, and that interview was extensive, over 4 hours, I'm told. And the BCA, can't compel the other testimony. So, I think the BCA is doing all it can as rapidly as it can, and there just is not very much other information or evidence available to them. Now, they'll have to, I'm not, again, qualified to say what else they're looking into, but they'll certainly, complete that work as soon as they possibly can and provide that information to the Hennepin County Attorney, which is what they're required to do.
How worried are you now that we've had Mark, we've had Montecito, now this Damond? How worried are you about the image of this state, which others see as not across the United States but across the world?
Well, I have deep regrets anytime I see Minnesota portrayed in less than a very positive light, which I think is what we deserve and have earned and what we want our image to be. So it's very concerning in this case. My greatest concern is for the individual who, Justine Damond, and for her family who have suffered this grievous loss. And that's the overriding concern I have.
Governor, last night a lot of media from Australia and across the world had asked the Assistant Police Chief and Mayor if our Minnesota policing system is trigger happy. And after these high-profile officers all treated, what can we do as a state to look at this issue that some think is systemic?
Well, again, that's where I think this training program is so important. Is both looking at it, but is also asking people with that training expertise what is most successful in terms of giving officers that perspective that they need to make split-second decisions and to make them be the right decisions. I don't think trigger happy is an appropriate term to apply to Minnesota law enforcement. And again, we're all dependent on them to be patrolling every minute of every day and night to keep us safe, and they encounter all sorts of really extremely difficult situations, and I think 99.99% of the time they conduct themselves admirably and with restraint and with the caution they recognize too the power that they have and the authority they have.
Chairman, with respect to witnesses, the BCA statement last night said that there was a bicyclist who stopped and saw part of the incident, and they're calling for any support. Would you use this platform?
Certainly ask anybody who has any knowledge that was present at the site or saw anything related to the site. I urge them, ask them to please come forward and share that information with the BCA. That would be a vitally important contribution to what I'm told is that they saw a bicyclist and then saw him again after the shot was fired and the Mrs. Damond was on the pavement, and not they don't believe a video of the incident itself. But whatever they have, whatever anybody has, we certainly deeply appreciate receiving.
Governor, would you clarify for us once again what contacts you've had with the BCA on this and what you've learned from them?
Well, I've been in contact with Commissioner Damond, who notified Chief of Staff, myself, within minutes on Saturday night, or it was early Sunday morning. By then, I've had numerous conversations. I've had two different face-to-face meetings with her. We have updated on the situation. We've been in frequent contact. My chief of staff has been in very frequent contact with her and the BCA officials. So we're closely involved and closely advised.
Have you directed them to make this a priority?
To make it an absolute first priority, yes, I certainly have, and they are doing so without my urging. They recognize the urgency of the situation. They recognize the enormous desire on everyone's part to be informed about what information is available. So they are giving this their absolute top priority.
And you've urged them to release information as quickly as possible?
I've urged them to do what they normally do in an instance like this, that is both as responsive as possible to the desire for information, and that also protects the integrity of the investigation and protects whatever or honors whatever laws or regulations that are applicable that guide what can and can't be done, what can and can't be said, and to whom and when. But the overriding effort, and they are very cognizant of this, is to provide what information is available that can be shared as quickly as possible and proceed as quickly as possible.
Governor, you said you spoke to the Australian consulate.
I left a message.
You left a message on voicemail, or?
I spoke there to a receptionist or an executive assistant. I didn't get her name, but I spoke to a person there.
And what was the message?
I said that I was governor of Minnesota, and given the incident that happened, I wanted to just offer whatever support or assistance I could. And again, Chief of Staff's been in touch with the contact the White House gave us to the secretary at the U.S. State Department about the protocol and the like, and she's been in conversation with the Minneapolis city authorities and the Hennepin County authorities regarding what information, certain protocols for how certain information needs to be communicated, what needs to transpire in order for it to be officially received, communication and the like. So we've been trying to learn and then follow that protocol, but be as forthcoming as we can be. And we will continue to be.
Have I talked to Mayor Hodges?
I've not spoken with her, no. My chief of staff again has talked with her top deputy on a frequent basis.
Governor, back to the Minneapolis shooting situation for a moment. As you reflected on this, and I'm sure you have, do you think these three high-profile cases, Steele, Mark Clark, and now Damond, are they unfortunate, tragic, coincidental series of events, or are they indicative of the fact that Minnesota law enforcement needs better training?
Well, I think most Minnesota law enforcement is very well trained and conducts itself very responsibly in ever increasingly difficult situations in our cities and across the state. To draw conclusions from three incidents, tragic as they are, requires somebody to really do a more careful analysis than I've been able to do. If there are conclusions that can be made and there's any shortcomings that become established, then we certainly look at that. And again, the overall training component of the legislature approved for law enforcement statewide will again focus on and will be different from one community to another, but focus on what they identify as areas that need to be strengthened. So, but to say that cast a blanket judgment across the state, I think is not supported by the information so far in these three instances.